Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to SoCo Chat, a podcast where we discuss all things concerning this beautiful place we call home in Sonoma County, California. I'm your host, Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma. And today we're once again doing something a little different. We're going to be featuring a roundtable discussion with members of our communications team here at the county. And we'll be talking about some of the latest news out of the county, recent press releases, stories out of SoCo Correspondent, the county's newsletter, as well as stories that have been in the news media of late. Joining me today are two of our communications specialists, Matt Brown and Gilbert Martinez. And then later in the segment, we'll also be joined by Ted Apple, who's the editor of our newsletter, SoCo Correspondent, which is actually offering a new edition as of today. But before we get started, I wanted to give the answer to a couple of recent SoCo Chat trivia questions that we've asked. One of our questions concerned how many miles of unincorporated roads we have in Sonoma County, and if they were stretched end to end, what city would they reach across the country? This came up in a recent interview we had with Supervisor David Rabbit, who is this year's chair of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. The answer is Sonoma County has roughly 1,400 miles of unincorporated roads, which I think is like the third most in the state. Anyway, if you put them end to end, it would reach from Santa Rosa all the way to Oklahoma City. That was the answer we were looking for, at Oklahoma City. Another one of our questions was concerned the dollar value. From a dollar value perspective, what is our second biggest crop in Sonoma County next to wine grapes? This came up in our recent SoCo Chat conversation with Agricultural Commissioner Andrew Smith. Now, some of you guessed poultry, which is close, and some of you guessed cannabis, as well as even apples, which once were a huge industry here. But the correct answer is milk. While wine grapes are a $547 million industry in Sonoma County, according to our most recent crop report, milk was the county's second biggest crop at $67 million. And right now, our farmers, particularly our dairy and poultry farmers, need all the love and support and recognition that they can get. So be sure to go out today and thank your farmer and farm worker. And finally, we want to leave you with our trivia question for this week. This question is in honor of the beginning of baseball season and comes from Gilbert, our biggest baseball fan on our staff. And our question is this: can you name the last Sonoma County student who was drafted in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft? And here's a hint. He currently plays for the Detroit Tigers. I think he's starting, as I recall. Okay, of course he's starting. Okay, if you know the answer, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. And if you're correct, your name will be entered into a drawing we'll be holding next week on March 14th for a chance to win one of our new limited edition SoCo Chat coffee mugs. So we hope you take part. And with that, let's get started on our roundtable discussion. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, Matt, I'd like to start with you. Early this week, you helped the probation department put out a really interesting press release that's gathered a lot of public attention and some positive feedback. It concerns a new music program at the Juvenile Hall facility. Would you tell us more about this?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Paul. It's a great story. Sonoma County Juvenile Hall has opened a music studio in their facility. It opened in January of this year, and they call it Free Voices after a facility-wide naming contest. It's a really great recording studio. It looks a lot like our studio here. It's got the acoustic panels on the walls. It's got industry standard microphones and mixing board. It also has 3 acoustic electric guitars, 1 electric guitar, several keyboards, an electric bass, and a drum set. And future plans call for wind and brass instruments as well. So it's got a really a great array of things that residents can use.
Well, this is fantastic. And so tell us, what is the goal of this project?
Yeah, so it really twofold, right? It's to promote pro-social development and give residents an expression, an artistic expression, an outlet for expression. And it also is a way to give them a vocational training. So, right, when they leave the facility, they can have some, music training to fall back on if they feel like going into that industry. Residents who are interested in participating in the music studio can put their name on a list, and
You're talking about the juvenile hall
in
residents
the
themselves.
juvenile hall
Yeah.
residents can get on a list if they're interested, and studio time is sort of given as
As a perk.
a perk, a reward for good behavior and a motivation for residents.
That's fantastic. And do
Yeah.
they have some outside people? I mean, I'm sure there's a array of skills that these residents of the juvenile hall come with. I mean, some may have some backgrounds in music, some may not, but they have some professionals that are helping them.
Absolutely, yeah. So for residents who don't, know anything about recording or music, they have a consultant that the facility's using to come in and help to train students or the residents on some of the instruments and the recording equipment as well. And they've already had, some jam sessions in there where residents have been able to record and make music.
Well, that's great. So what's been the response so far from the public since we came out with this press release?
It's been very positive so far. We've had a lot of interest, especially from music industry professionals who really want to lend
They want to help out.
lend their skills and talents to this great program. So, we put in there that if someone wants to volunteer, they can reach out at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. That's our email address, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org, and they can email us, and we can pass their request along to the probation department, and they'll get back to them.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. As you say, there's been we posted this on social media, and there's been a lot of very positive comments from people of bringing these kinds of programs into juvenile hall, and we applaud the probation department for really opening that up.
Absolutely.
So that's fantastic. Well, thank you, Matt.
Thanks so much.
Gilbert, I want to turn to you next. Last weekend, Supervisor Linda Hopkins and her staff at District 5 had a ribbon cutting out in Guerneville. Would you tell us what that was all about?
Yeah, so Supervisor Hopkins and District 5 staff, along with a few county officials, Director Tina Rivera was out there, Sheriff Eddie Ingram was out there to celebrate the opening of a new satellite office, which is a way to get county services out to the Lower Russian River and to West County as a whole.
So this is the opening of a new office that's based out there primarily for district staff, but there's other services that are available there at that site, right?
Yes,
what other sites are available? What other services are available?
Yeah, the Department of Health Services is out there. Department of Human Services is out there. West County Community Service is out there. My apologies. So Human Services will be out there later this year.
Eventually. Okay.
Yeah, they're looking to bring a lot more. And at the opening, Supervisor Hopkins mentioned how she's also trying to get additional services to kind of work out of that office to provide more services.
Yeah, it sounded like they had a good turnout for their ribbon cutting. Sheriff Eddie Ingram was out there, and some others. And remind people where the new satellite office is located.
Yeah, so it's located in Guerneville, out of the old Bank of America building. And just to be sure that I get the address correct here, it is located on 16390 Main Street, Guerneville. And again, it's out of the former Bank of America building.
People are well acquainted with that
Yes.
building. It's been used for many things, and we know having that office out there will be a great resource for the West County, especially during times of emergencies. And Supervisor Hopkins and her staff have played key roles in getting out services to people, victims, including during last year's storm. Now, part of that was getting financial assistance out to those who were most impacted by those storms or most disproportionately impacted. In fact, you wrote about the Board of Supervisors last week that approved a new program that's going to help distribute financial assistance when we have similar disasters in the future. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the Board of Supervisors, last week, late February,
The last meeting.
last meeting in February, approved essentially a system that will be in place so that if an emergency happens, we don't have to scramble to get the resources. Everything will be in place now.
Yeah.
So it really just kind of demonstrates the county's commitment to being prepared.
Yeah.
While we can't foresee every potential danger, we can mitigate a lot of the known harms during emergency situations.
Yeah. and have these systems in place.
Correct.
Now they're going to contract with two organizations to help with this, right? What are the two organizations they're working with?
Yeah, it's contracts with COAD
Mm-hmm.
and CPI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that they're gonna be distributing up to $550,000 per organization, but they can actually distribute more than that, right?
Correct. So if more funding becomes available, whether it's through state or federal funding, the contracts can expand further to both COAD and to the CPI.
Okay. Just looking back at early last year, do we have numbers? How many people were helped at that time? Do you have that?
During the first storms, and I just want to be again accurate by looking up here, the county provided about 812,853. Sorry,
About 813,000.
813,000.
Yeah.
To more than 1,700 people in the January 2023 storms.
Yeah. Okay. And then this time with this new program in place, what's the criteria they're going to use in getting financial assistance out to these individuals?
So they'll use some of the similar criteria they used last year, but it'll be a little more refined.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with the very basic questions, which is your eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Sonoma County resident?
Mm-hmm.
Were you forced to evacuate?
Mm-hmm.
Was your house damaged or destroyed?
Okay.
Or did the storm prevent you from going to work? If you are eligible through that way, the next thing is they'll make you see if you're eligible through income.
Yeah.
You have to be at or below 60% area medium income. For those who are listening or watching, in order for a family of four to qualify for that 60% area medium income, it's about $75,000
Or less.
or less.
Yeah. So once they fit one or more of that criteria, well, if they've been affected and then they have the income at that level, what happens next?
At that point, they will be kind of given a quick survey, 11 questions on a point system, and depending on the yes or no answer, they will receive a point. The more points you have, the more
assistance you might get.
Yeah, you're in need.
Yeah.
So you can, by just being at that point, you qualify for a minimum of $500, and up to a maximum of $2,000.
$2,000. So that's kind of the cap there.
Yeah.
Okay. And once again, this is for events where there's been an actual emergency declared by the Board of Supervisors, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, and obviously we'll be sure to keep the public posted when those events occur. And the best way to do that is to sign up for emergency alerts through socoemergency.org, but also to follow County of Sonoma on our Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter pages, where we regularly push out important information during times of disasters.
Correct.
So, yeah.
There's no better way to be prepared than by actually knowing what's going on. So stay informed.
We encourage people to sign up for that. Well, thank you, Gilbert, for both of those. I now want to turn to Ted Apple, who's the editor of SoCo Correspondent, our biweekly newsletter. Ted, congratulations on getting out another great edition of our newsletter. There's lots of good stuff this week.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Okay, I'm going to admit I've heard about bomb sniffing dogs. I've heard about jug sniffing dogs. But dogs that are trained to smell out for freshwater mussels, I'll admit that's a new one on me. We have a story this week about that. Tell us more about that.
Sure. Well, I think everyone knows that dogs have an amazing sense of smell. And because their nose is at least 100,000 times more sensitive than a human nose, they can do some really cool things. Some are trained to detect cancer and other types of disease like COVID. And it turns out they can also...
That's a good one too.
Yeah. Yeah. It turns out they can also detect quagga and zebra mussels. Now, if you haven't heard of these before, this is an invasive species. They're about the size of a thumbnail. And although they're small, they can spread fairly quickly and easily by hitching a ride on boats and that are towed from lakes to rivers. And if they're not cleaned and dried adequately, they can spread very quickly. And they can shut down waterways because they spread so quickly once they're introduced into a river or a lake.
Is that because of just their presence they clog things, or is there a what's the impact, the hindrance they have on the system?
Well, you're right. They do clog up stuff,
Mhm.
and they also eat other types of things and can disrupt the ecosystems.
The natural
Yeah.
ecosystems. I see. And so, has the county been using these dogs, or what's the story for us locally?
Yeah. The good news is that they're not up here in our area yet. They've made it up as far as
The mussels.
the mussels. Yes,
Uh-huh.
that's correct. They've been detected down in San Benito County, which
Okay.
is kind of east of Santa Cruz and Monterey area.
Right.
But Sonoma Water has been using these dogs for years to keep pests out of Lake Sonoma.
Hmm.
And so the news that we have to share this week is that last week the Sonoma Water Board of Directors, which is also the Board of Supervisors
Right.
who serve as the board for the county's water agency, they approved a $667,000 contract with an inspection company. They're called Mussel Dogs
Hmm.
to operate the program at Lake Sonoma for the next 2 years.
Okay. And how can residents help these dogs?
Well, yeah, basically, you can do a lot. You need to make sure to clean, drain, and dry your boat before entering and leaving lakes, rivers, and other waterways. And make sure to bring your boat by the mussel inspection station at Lake Sonoma.
Yeah. Well, we offer some great pictures of these mussel dogs, and when I have to admit, when I hear mussel dogs, I think of dogs pumping weights down by the waterfront. But that's not quite what we have here. But these dogs are terrific, and I hope you get a chance to read this story and see some of those photos. Okay, another story we had this week was about an important opportunity for residents to give state officials some feedback about a proposal by phone operator AT&T. Tell us about that too.
Sure. We want to make sure that people are aware of an important public hearing coming up later this month that could impact the type of telephone service that you get into your home. Now, this hearing is going to focus on landline telephone service provided by AT&T, which is the largest landline telephone company here in Sonoma County. And
Some of us still have landlines, and
Yeah.
some of us still need it, especially in rural areas, right?
people in rural areas are very concerned about
Yeah.
it. So here's what's happening. Nearly 30 years ago, AT&T agreed to serve as something that's called the carrier of last resort,
Yeah.
in much of California. And so in exchange for exclusive rights to provide landline telephone service in its territory, AT&T agreed to provide basic telephone service to every customer in that area who requests it. Now, a year ago, AT&T filed an application with the California Public Utilities Commission to be relieved of that obligation. It argues that landlines have become antiquated as customers move to broadband and wireless service, and it wants to invest in those networks. But critics are concerned that the proposal could cut off all communication services to some customers, particularly people who live in remote regions that lack reliable wireless service and are subject to power outages and wildfires.
Yeah. Well, some of us still depend on landlines for that, connection in times, especially times of crisis, right? Neighbor calling neighbor.
Well, I mean, we all know as driving through rural parts of the county that your cell phone doesn't always work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's true. So how can the public get their opinion out about this and share their opinion with the State Public Utilities Commission?
Well, state regulators, they want to hear from the public about this proposal as they try to decide what to do with AT&T's requests. And so it's going to have two virtual forums on Tuesday, March 19th, one at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the other at 6 in the evening, to get feedback on the request. We've got a link in the newsletter that'll take you directly to the place on the PUC website where you can participate in the forum. Now, if you're not yet a subscriber to the newsletter, Google these 3 words: PUC, hearing, AT&T.
Okay.
And the PUC webpage should be at one of the top results that you get.
Okay. All right. Well, and finally, last week we did 2 SoCo chat segments, one in English and one in Spanish. Thank you, Gilbert, on a unique farm workers resource fair that was held in Windsor. That was on Sunday. So for those who heard that segment, can you tell us how did that turn out?
It went really well,
Mhm.
is the short answer. Now, this is something that the county has never done before. Last weekend, the county's Human Services Department and the Economic Development Board teamed up with a local nonprofit, California Human Development, to stage a resource fair for local farm workers and their families. Now, I think most people know that agriculture is a huge part of the county's economy. But this is one of the most difficult times of year for farm workers. Many of them see their hours and their pay cut significantly when agricultural work slows between the end of harvest and the start of the new growing season.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal of the county's event was to connect farm workers with resources to help them with housing,
Mm-hmm.
food, healthcare, employment, immigration law, tax preparation, and more. The county rounded up more than 40 different government agencies, nonprofits, and advocacy groups to participate, and nearly 250 farm workers and their families attended the event at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in Windsor.
Yeah.
If you subscribe to the newsletter, you can view a photo gallery of the event and see for yourself what happened.
Yeah. Well, that's great. We have some great photos and a nice recap of that. And remind our listeners how they can sign up for SoCo chat or SoCo correspondent, our newsletter.
Sure. Well, go to our website. Now, the URL is a mouthful, but it's worth your time. Go to sonomacounty.ca.gov/SoCo correspondent.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they can find it. They can also just send us an email at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org, and we'll send you a link to how you can get signed up for that.
It's only slightly less complicated,
It's
but
only
we'll
slightly-
help you.
You can
Either way,
always
it's
follow
helpful.
us on Instagram as well. The link is on there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Or
slightly less
Facebook.
complicated.
And
Thank
we'll
you,
be
yeah.
pushing out. Thank you, Gilbert. We will be pushing out updates about some of the stories that are in SoCo Correspondent through social media. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, YouTube.
You can even leave your comments on SoCo Chat Podcast.
There you go. That's it.
So
And we'll get back to you. All right. Hey, well, that's it for our SoCo Chat Roundtable for this week. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your contributions. And this is just a reminder about our trivia question for the day. Can you name the last Sonoma County student who was drafted in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft? If you can, send your answer to or call us at 707-565-2242. Again, that's 565-2242. Or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. And if you're correct, your name will be entered into a drawing we'll hold next week on March 14th for a chance to win one of our limited edition SoCo Chat coffee mugs. Also, if you have comments about this or any other segment or have a suggestion for a future topic of discussion on SoCo Chat, please email us at that same address, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Thank you all. We hope you'll continue to follow SoCo Chat on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, or, of course, YouTube. We'll see you next time.